And today, the Supreme Court has answered that question by a vote of 6-3.
The U.S. Supreme Court has just issued a major ruling.
Major Supreme Court ruling.
This is a case that's been bounced around back and forth throughout the court system.
Supreme Court just redefined gun confiscation. Imagine police entering your home without a warrant and taking your firearms. No arrest, no emergency. Just a decision based on vague safety claims. That might sound unconstitutional, but it nearly became standard practice until now. In a shocking 9-0 ruling, the Supreme Court just redefined how far the government can go in seizing firearms. And what happens next may affect every single gun owner in the country. In this video, we break down what the court actually ruled and why it matters. How does this decision build on the past 2 A wins? Which states are at risk of being blocked next? The new legal lines on home entry and firearm confiscation, and why the expansion of this ruling is already underway. Welcome to Survival Firearms. Like this video and subscribe to stay ahead of the fight. Chapter 1. Case that sparked a constitutional battle. The foundation of this landmark decision lies in the case Caniglia versus Strom, which raised urgent constitutional questions. In 2015, Edward Caniglia argued with his wife in Rhode Island. Concerned for his mental state, she called the police the next day, who arrived and persuaded Caniglia to undergo a psychiatric evaluation, but then entered his home without a warrant and seized 2 handguns. Key takeaways. Police claimed they acted under a community caretaking function. No crime was committed, and no imminent danger was present. The firearms were taken without a warrant, arrest, or consent. Caniglia sued, asserting a clear Fourth Amendment violation. The case progressed through the courts for years. Lower courts sided with law enforcement, but once the Supreme Court took the case, everything changed, and their unanimous decision reasserted the privacy of the home as constitutionally sacred. Chapter 2. The Supreme Court's 9-0 ruling explained. In May 2021, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a 9-0 unanimous opinion, rejecting the use of the community caretaking doctrine to justify warrantless home entry and firearm confiscation. Authored by Justice Clarence Thomas, the ruling declared that such actions violated the Fourth Amendment's protections against unreasonable searches and seizures. Key takeaways. The court ruled there is no broad caretaking exception for private homes. Police may still enter with a warrant or in exigent emergencies. The ruling distinguishes clearly between vehicles and homes under Fourth Amendment law. The court clarified that the home holds the highest level of constitutional protection. This decision effectively closed a dangerous legal loophole. Before this case, lower courts had allowed expansive interpretations of police power, something the court firmly shut down. Chapter 3. The Fourth Amendment Reborn in Practice. For decades, the Fourth Amendment's shield had been chipped away by vague judicial doctrines and inconsistent enforcement. But this ruling reaffirms its central purpose: protecting Americans from government intrusion into their homes without due process or emergency justification. Key takeaways. Caniglia versus Strom strengthens the legal need for a search warrant. The decision limits the scope of exceptions like mental health checks or wellness visits. Government officials must now follow stricter constitutional procedures. This raises the bar for future firearm confiscation cases nationwide. In essence, the decision breathes life back into the Fourth Amendment. It signals to law enforcement agencies that shortcuts in the name of public safety will not justify constitutional violations. Chapter 4. Nationwide impact on gun owners. While this case originated in Rhode Island, its implications apply to all 50 states. The ruling directly restricts how local police and state authorities can respond to mental health calls or family disputes involving firearms. States with red flag laws or wellness check policies are now under scrutiny. Key takeaways. States must revise protocols that relied on community caretaking logic. Red flag laws that include home entry without warrants may be unconstitutional. Gun owners now have stronger legal grounds to push back against unlawful confiscation. Law enforcement must prove actual danger or get a court order before acting. This is more than a court case. It's a signal flare. Gun owners across the nation now know that possession inside your home is constitutionally protected, and removal requires due process. Chapter 5. State-level resistance and reinterpretation. Despite the ruling, some states are looking for creative ways to sidestep its effects. California, New York, Oregon, and other pro-gun control states are testing the limits of emergency exception language to preserve warrantless firearm confiscation tactics, a move that could trigger future lawsuits. Key takeaways. California lawmakers are crafting mental health emergency carve-outs. New York is using judicial orders to fast-track red flag seizures. States are reframing community caretaking under different terminology. Gun rights groups are already preparing fresh lawsuits based on this ruling. The battleground has shifted. While the Supreme Court drew a line in the sand, some states are trying to redraw the map. But with this 9-0 precedent, constitutional challenges are likely to grow stronger and more successful. Chapter 6. What this means for red flag laws. Red flag laws are some of the most controversial tools used to temporarily seize firearms from individuals deemed a threat. But after the Supreme Court's 9-0 ruling, the legal foundation of how those laws are enforced, especially without warrants, is beginning to crack. Key takeaways. Most red flag laws allow firearm seizure based on accusations, not crimes. Many states permit home entry without a full warrant under red flag orders. This ruling challenges any seizure not based on imminent danger or court process. Laws relying on vague mental health concerns may now be unconstitutional. The Caniglia decision forces a rethink of how red flag enforcement works. Gun owners now have a stronger constitutional ground to contest raids and removals that bypass due process. Chapter 7. Law enforcement training must change. Police across the country have long been trained to operate under the community caretaking exception, especially during welfare checks or mental health calls. That doctrine is now severely limited, requiring major updates in law enforcement protocols. Key takeaways: agencies must retrain officers on proper Fourth Amendment procedure. Officers can no longer seize firearms during wellness checks without exigent cause. Consent or warrants are now critical to entering a private home. Departments that fail to adjust could face lawsuits or suppression of evidence. This ruling isn't just about courtrooms, it's about street-level practice. Every officer, sheriff, and department must adapt to this constitutional reset or risk crossing the line. Chapter 8. Potential expansion through future cases. The Supreme Court's 9-0 ruling has already made waves, but legal scholars believe it is only the beginning. Similar cases in other states, including Texas, Illinois, and California, are now referencing Caniglia versus Strum as legal precedent. Key takeaways: new lawsuits are testing the ruling's limits in broader gun-related seizures. Appellate courts are citing the case in decisions about home searches. Some judges have already overturned firearm removals based on this decision. Gun rights attorneys are building momentum for wider protections. This is not a one-time win. It is the first domino in a series of legal challenges that could redefine how state and federal governments regulate firearm possession in the home. Chapter 9. Impact on veterans and mental health checks. One of the most overlooked groups affected by unconstitutional seizures is military veterans, many of whom face wellness checks due to PTSD or emotional concerns. In many past incidents, firearms were confiscated from vets without cause. Key takeaways: veterans are disproportionately targeted in mental health-based confiscations. The ruling provides a stronger legal defense for vets against unlawful seizures. Veterans groups are raising awareness of rights under the Caniglia decision. Cases involving VA referrals or medical wellness calls may now require court approval. This decision helps close a painful loophole that has affected thousands of responsible veterans. It reminds America that service to the nation does not erase constitutional rights at home. Chapter 10. Future of gun rights in America. The 9-0 Supreme Court ruling is not the end of the line. It is the beginning of a constitutional transformation. Now that the court has reestablished limits on warrantless home entry and firearm confiscation, the fight shifts to how lower courts, state legislatures, and advocacy groups carry this ruling forward. Key takeaways: gun rights groups are already using this ruling in legal challenges nationwide. States must now revise policies that allow home entry without a warrant. Future cases will likely expand the scope of this decision into related areas. Gun owners must stay engaged and understand their legal rights in full. This ruling gives Americans a constitutional shield, but that shield only works when people know how to use it. Training, legal education, and civic pressure are now the next battleground. Every sheriff, judge, and politician must be held accountable to this new legal standard. The Second and Fourth Amendments have been reaffirmed, but their survival will depend on what comes next and how fiercely we defend them. A new era for gun rights has begun. This decision is more than a technical ruling. It is a powerful declaration that the home is still sacred, that rights must be honored, and that government power has limits. For years, the boundaries of the Fourth Amendment were blurred by ambiguous legal doctrines, but the Supreme Court has now redrawn them boldly, unanimously, and in favor of liberty. Gun owners in every state must stay alert, informed, and empowered. Your firearms are not just tools of protection, they are part of a right that the Constitution defends. This channel is here to help you navigate that fight. No politics, no spin, just the raw legal truth that affects your future. If you found value in this video, hit the like button, and share it with other defenders of freedom. Because this isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new chapter in the defense of the Second and Fourth Amendments.